What's going on? Welcome to Blockchain Tech and Finance News with me, your host, Ken. Let's see. I will be changing things up a little bit where I'm going to edit this once more right now. So it seems to be the best route for Saturdays and time efficiency will be 12 p.m. noon. As such, 12 p.m. EDT time on Saturdays. Blockchain Tech and Finance News. Smash subscribe on the bell button. Again, weekdays 7:30 a.m. EDT time and Saturday 12 p.m. Oh, what? I have 12 a.m. No, let's go. Let's see this. I'm gonna put in the a.m. There we go. 12 p.m. EDT time every Saturday. If you're into NFT art, you can check out KinSAMURAI and OpenSea and Foundation for my NFT created art. You can follow me on TikTok, KinToshi follow me on Instagram, KinToshi on Twitch, KinToshi for extra gaming content. It's played through. And in the chat, you know your chats, crawl the woodworks. You can throw your chats. What kind of news you feel important we have covered? What kind of news do you find in technology, blockchain, NFTs, cryptocurrency? What have you? Throw it in the chat there and throw it up on a Jumbotron. It's decided to be featured on the channel. And throw your comments and on the recaps on YouTube side. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into starting out on the markets. I'm going to go into some important news that everyone probably knows about Bennett Smart Chain, sidechain attached, and the hack over there. It's been covered, but we'll read about that. There's a little more insight there. So let's go. All right, starting out with the markets, we have the Dow. Closed in. Which this is all loaded up. All right, there we go. With the Dow down 2.11% for the closing week, S&P 500 2.80%, NASDAQ 3.80%, Global Dow 1.69%, the gold 0.44%, and crude oil 0.60% in the Europe's markets. With FTSE 100 down 0.09%, the DAX down 1.59%, the CAC 40 down 1.717%, down 1.17%, FTSE MIB down 1.113%, the IBEX 35 0.99% down, the Stock 600 down 1.18% in the Asia markets. The Asia Dow down 1.29%, the Nikkei 225 down 0.71%, Hang Seng down 1.51%, Shanghai down 0.55%, Sensex down 0.05%, Singapore down 0.18%. The Forex, with the Euro down 0.01%, the Yen up 0.05%, the Pound down 0.03%, Australia dollar up 0.19%, the DXY index up 0.44%, the WSJ IDX up 0.39%. In the rates with the US 10-year, well, it looks like it's just all data loss. Let's see. DGAIF in the futures market down 0.21%, 2.12%. S&P F down 0.07%. The Nasdaq F down 0.05%. Gold down 0.44%. Silver down 0.47%. And crude oil up 0.6%. In the crypto markets, we have Bitcoin at $19,493, down 0.29%. Ethereum in USD is $1,325 per ETH, down 0.53%. XRP is 0.52 cents per XRP cryptocurrency coin, up 1.12%. Bitcoin Cash is up 0.33%, $117.43 per beat. I don't even remember what the BTC Cash is even tickers anymore. Litecoin USD is $53.22, up 0.6%. Monero USD is $147.59, up 1.9%. So you almost had a 2% right there on Monero. Yeah, that goes. Crypto's 24/7. So, all right, that's not financial advice. Do your own research on these. Monero is a privacy coin, so its own features, its own chain build, but I don't know what they're doing over there, actually, to be honest. I don't know what they're developing upon the Monero chain. For traceless transactions, it's a privacy coin. It's the OG one. All right, so in the first piece of news here, we have the Binance Link blockchain hit by a $570 million crypto theft. This writer, Jennifer Cohen, for CNN. This isn't exactly like new. This is like about a day old, well, almost at some point. But yeah, Binance, which describes itself as the largest cryptocurrency exchange by trading volume, is the latest company to be impacted by a major theft this year. Binance Link blockchain $170 million hack late Thursday. A company spokesperson confirmed to CNN Business on Friday. Binance temporarily suspended its blockchain network BNB Smart Chain due to irregular activity. The company tweeted Thursday. The company said Friday that hackers had stolen 2 million BNB cryptocurrency tokens, which are issued by Binance, worth about $570 million at the time. Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao initially tweeted that an estimated $100 million worth of crypto had been stolen. Your funds are safe, Zhao tweeted on Thursday night. We apologize for the inconvenience. The company said 100 million worth of tokens remain unrecovered and moved off chain attacker. The remaining funds have been frozen on the BNB chain. In order to carry out the theft, the hackers targeted what's called a cross-chain bridge. Okay, this is what I was talking about the other day. The vulnerability of bridging cryptocurrencies. I was noting this on stream, right? In between, bridging is vulnerable, and I was being noted actually directly from Vitalik Buterin, and I was reading from the news on that. Bridges increasingly target Bridges, increasingly the targets of attackers in recent months, are the infrastructure that allows users to exchange crypto assets between different blockchains. Bridge services typically hold large reserves of various coins. These coin reserves are attracting the attention of hackers and turning blockchain bridges into prime targets for heists, according to blockchain analysis firm Elliptic. Some $1.83 billion had been stolen from bridges as of August, with the majority of that $1.21 billion taking place just this year. According to Elliptic, some of the largest thefts this year include $490 million stolen from cryptocurrency bridge provider Nomad. Some of the largest thefts, Nomad in August, California-based firm Harmony's $100 million loss in late June, and Axie Infinity's Ronin Bridge $625 million hack in March. This latest attack put on the BNB blockchain offline for about 9 hours. In order to stop the incident from spreading, the chain ecosystem contacted each of the chain's validators to verify transactions on the blockchain as legitimate. BNB wrote in a company post. The chain was back up and running around 2:30 p.m. according to a company tweet. All right, so that's what are they gonna do about it? Did they roll it? It's not like roll it back or anything. What's interesting to hear and learn more about that as time goes on after their research or what they're doing, or obviously it doesn't seem like they've rolled that hack back. I don't really know. I mean, they can't roll they have to fork the chain or something. Let's see. Hedge fund through Sigma to provide data to blockchain information network. The massive fund, which manages about $60 billion in assets, will provide derivatives related data to Chainlink. This is from writer Brandy Best for CoinDesk. Two Sigma Securities, quantitative hedge fund with about $60 billion in assets under management, will provide data to popular blockchain information network Chainlink, according to a press release provided to CoinDesk. Chainlink offers price feeds and other data through its Oracle network, which can help Web3 developers get projects off the ground faster. Two Sigma's market data includes swaps, options, and other derivative-related information. The addition comes a week after financial services from Galaxy Digital joined Chainlink to offer crypto pricing data to blockchains. As a market maker and data provider, we believe we can play an important role in helping to cultivate a healthy digital assets ecosystem, and we are excited by the value digital assets we can bring to the financial marketplaces as it evolves, said Two Sigma Securities CEO Chris Marty in the press release. So last month, the venture capital arm of Two Sigma committed $400 million to two new funds that would include crypto investments. All right, so there it is. Hedge fund Two Sigma to provide data to blockchain information network. To the tune of around 400 million, also in some direct injections into research, building, scaling, things like that. Then the blockchain sector. So Visa partners with FTX in a bet that shoppers still want to spend cryptocurrencies in the bear market. So we're going on. We had a couple pieces of blockchain direct news and the Binance hack, and then also the FTX data chain on-chain data. And also now we're going into some direct cryptocurrency news here. So we got key points. Visa is teaming up with global crypto exchange FTX to offer debit cards in 40 countries with a focus on Latin America, Asia, and Europe. It's payment giant's latest foray into the space with more than 70 crypto partnerships. Rival MasterCard has been on a similar deal spree. Even though values have come down, there's still steady interest in crypto, says Visa CFO Vasant Prabhu. Visa is betting that crypto investors still want to spend their digital currencies even as prices plummet this year. The payments giant is teaming up with the global exchange FTX to offer debit cards in 40 countries with the focus on Latin America, Asia, and Europe. The cards, which are already available in the US, will link directly to a user's FTX cryptocurrency investing account. The move allows customers to spend digital currencies without moving those off in exchange, like you would with any bank account, according to Visa's CFO. Even though values have come down, there's still steady interest in crypto. Visa CFO Vasant Prabhu told CNBC in a phone interview, "We don't have a position as a company on what the value of cryptocurrency should be or whether it's a good thing in the long run. But as long as people have things they want to buy, we want to facilitate it." The deal comes as the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies has been cut in half from their all-time highs in November. Bitcoin was trading near $20,000 on Friday morning, down 57% since January. It's Visa's latest foray into the space and adds more than 70 crypto partnerships. The San Francisco-based company has already joined forces with FTX's competitors Coinbase and Binance. Rival MasterCard has been on a similar spree, also partnering with Coinbase on NFTs and back to let banks and merchants in its network offer crypto-related services. American Express said it's exploring using its cards and network with stablecoins, which are pegged to the price of $1 and of another fiat currency. But the CEO said earlier this year that consumers should not expect to see an Amex crypto-linked card anytime soon. Unlikely teammates, FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried acknowledged some irony to these partnerships. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin were first designed to get around banks and intermediaries, but banks and payment companies are suddenly embracing the technology as cryptocurrencies go mainstream and help drive payment volume. It's a technology that we absolutely see disrupting traditional payment networks. Bankman-Fried told CNBC in a phone call, "There's a decision you have to make as a traditional payments company. Do you want to lean into this or do you want to fight against it? I respect the fact that many of them are leaning into it." Bankman-Fried also said enabling card payments that was key to the market's growth beyond being a speculative asset or, to some, a store of value. The Visa partnership makes it easier for merchants to accept cryptocurrencies without setting up for proprietary technology. Visa and FTX converted on the back end. As Prabhu put it, everything is done behind the scenes. Both executives said the biggest opportunity is in emerging markets where cryptocurrency volatility and inflation makes assets makes access to digital assets more attractive than they might look in the US. Bankman-Fried called out Turkey and Argentina, where inflation has dropped 83% and 78% respectively. Many of these things are potentially cool and valuable in the United States, but more so when you look globally. Bankman-Fried said that's where you'll find places with really poor alternatives for payment rails and huge demand for something better. Visa's Prabhu pointed to demand for stablecoins, which are either linked to the price of a dollar or another fiat currency. The CFO said often people see opening. Um, all right, so close this out. The CFO said they often see people opening accounts to hold crypto and use those and use those like they would a bank account. Despite mainstream adoption of Fortune 500 companies like Visa embracing the technology, the industry has some high-profile blowups this year. Lenders Celsius and Voyager filed for bankruptcy after freezing withdrawals, and failure of hedge fund Three Arrows Capital resulted in billions wiped out of the markets in a matter of days. Visa CFO said so far the company has been able to avoid exposure to a crypto crisis. Nothing is risk-free. You do the best you can. So far, the risk controls have worked well, and our due diligence has worked well, Prabhu said. By and large, we've been enabling innovation while protecting the Visa brand. All right, so that's it right there. Our Visa partners with FTX and a bet that shoppers will still want to spend cryptocurrencies in a bear market. Next piece of news I have is from Cointelegraph. So, that was that's just a secondary read through, but research, more of the actual article we're going to read from. CoinDesk. It's only in the metaverse, Decentraland's 38 active users and a $1.3 billion ecosystem. It's only in the metaverse, right? So I'm going to actually start. I think that's an interesting thing to actually look up a piece of metaverse each day as well, and read through 1 to 2 pieces of metaverse news as an important topic of where metaverse actually is and where it's going. It's just thrown around so much to me that because I'm hearing it actually not just related to blockchain things, but overall global talk of a metaverse. So to me, that is something that is noteworthy, I guess, to read from. So we'll have a blockchain tech news piece, crypto news piece, metaverse piece, and NFT piece. And a lot of NFT is actually linked to metaverse. So if it's going coinciding hand in hand, we'll just read it as typical. While metaverse platforms Decentraland and the Sandbox both have below 1,000 daily active users, they each have over $1 billion in valuation. So who's actually using the metaverse right now? This is from writer Cameron Thompson for CoinDesk. What's going on in the metaverse these days, you might ask? Looking at 2 of the biggest companies with over $1 billion valuation, the answer is surprising not much, or at least not enough to bring users back every day. According to data from DappRadar, the Ethereum-based virtual world Decentraland had 38 active users in the past 24 hours, while competitor The Sandbox boasted 522 active users in that same time. An active user, according to DappRadar, is defined as a unique wallet address interaction with the platform's smart contract. For example, logging into The Sandbox or Decentraland to make a purchase with Sand or Mana. Each platform's respective native utility token as counted as an active use. This means that DappRadar's compilation of daily active users doesn't account for people who log in and mosey around a metaverse platform or drop in briefly for an event, such as Virtual Fashion Week. It also likely means that these spaces are not where people are making transactions, such as buying non-fungible tokens, NFTs. The developer might defend the low daily stats with the familiar phrase "Don't hate the player, hate the game." But it seems it's not just one quiet day for the two metaverse platforms. The largest number of daily users ever on Decentraland was 675, according to DApp Radar. For Sandbox, that number was larger at about 4,503. Sam Hamilton, creator-director at Decentraland, told CoinDesk that while they report 8,000 users on average per day, this accounts for any individual who passively interacts with the metaverse. He noted that while they saw peak attendees in March, the number of tourists and spectators has since cooled down. Despite low user metrics, Decentraland and Sandbox have high valuations. According to the data from Masari, Decentraland and the Sandbox both have market caps of around $1.3 billion each, while they play-to-earn game Axie Infinity while the play-to-earn game Axie Infinity has a 1.16 billion market cap, it's nearly 22,000 daily active users. It's nearly 22,000 daily users reported on DApp Radar suggests that open-ended metaverses that don't provide incentives to stay, such as gaming or trading, may not see regular returning users at this point. Although the metaverse may be enough of a buzzword for companies to rebrand their names around the concept, mass adoption will likely take a while. Sasha Fleischman, portfolio manager at digital asset investment firm Arca, told CoinDesk that metaverse platforms will be much more valuable to users when they actually operate as intended. Anyone telling you that there's a metaverse today that has worked is lying through their teeth, said Fleischman. Beverage company Snapple's pop-up bodega in Decentraland last August sparked questions about mainstream use cases for promotional content in the metaverse. In July, skater Tony Hawk announced his virtual skate park paired with the Avatar collection to the Sandbox, which aims to bring fans from his $1.4 billion Tony Hawk Pro Skater video game to a new, more interactive platform. Set to run from October 19th to the 23rd, the turnout of virtual skaters may be larger than the users purchasing Hawk's NFTs in sand. In my opinion, we're leaning towards a lack of product market lift on that date. On that side, irrespective of their valuation, said Fleischman. So here's a little there on It's Lonely in the Metaverse, Decentraland's 38 active users and a $1.3 billion ecosystem. And Decentraland's come a long way from, I remember it just was starting raising the initial capital some years ago. Next piece of news, not noise, already reloaded the same article. I had that twice in there. So we're going into some NFT news now. Two interesting pieces of NFT news. From Decrypt writer Andrew Hayward, 3 Arrows, CryptoPunks, and other Starry Night Ethereum NFTs set to be liquidated. The Starry Night Capital NFT fund is now in the hands of liquidators, which plan to sell off the assets to cover 3 Arrows obligations. In premium, NFTs belong to 3 Arrows Capital through its Starry Night Capital fund are now in the possession of liquidator Teneo, the firm said. Starry Night Capital spent tens of millions acquiring high-value NFTs such as art blocks, CryptoPunks, and Pepe assets after expensive Ethereum-based NFTs belonging to crypto hedge fund 3 Arrows Capital were moved to a new wallet this week. The liquidator behind the firm's bankruptcy proceedings has confirmed that it has taken custody of the collection. Teneo, the business advisory firm leading to Chapter 15 bankruptcy Chapter 15 bankruptcy process, said in a statement that it now has possession of the NFTs owned by Starry Night Capital, a fund established by 3 Arrows Capital and pseudonymous investor Vincent Van Gogh in 2021. Most of the assets were transferred to the new wallet over the last 2 days. According to the liquidator, all of Starry Night Capital's NFTs have been accounted for and are in possession or are being transferred to us. Teneo credited Vincent Van Doe for facilitating the transfer of the NFTs and making sure they weren't sold outside of the liquidation process. Tenney also said that the pseudonymous collector will help the firm sell the NFT collection to cover Three Arrows Capital's losses. Once a high-profile hedge fund in the crypto space, Three Arrows Capital became insolvent in May following the collapse of Terra's UST and Luno ecosystem, in which the firm was heavily invested. Three Arrows Capital cited other recent bad bets, including on staked Ethereum and the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust that founders Stu Zhu and Kyle Davis said were also a factor. Three Arrows filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy proceeding in June. It claimed it had owed $3.5 billion to creditors following its collapse in August. Singapore's High Court approved a deeper probe into the firm's collapse. The hedge fund's Starry Night Capital was announced in August 2021 as the NFT market soared to new heights, with plans to raise as much as $100 million to purchase and hold high-value NFTs. The fund was announced alongside its purchasers of Artblocks, Ringer's NFT from Dmitry Cherniak for $5.66 million worth of ETH at the time. The collection expanded with an array of other Artblocks NFTs along with CryptoPunks, Rare Pepes, and other valuable pieces. An incomplete list of Starry Night's holdings from data platform Dune suggests that the firm spent at least $35 million on NFTs in 2021. However, the value in collection amid the sinking NFT market, with valuations and trading volume down significantly amid the wider crypto market decline, is challenging due to a lack of liquidity and comparable recent sales for some of the NFTs. Crypto analytics from Nansen pegged the valuation of the collection at about $846,000 worth of ETH, but many of the individual estimates are well below the last purchase price. More likely, given the continued demand for CryptoPunks, the artwork from prominent generative art creators could recover millions of dollars worth of ETH by liquidating the NFT holdings. So that's right there on Three Arrows, CryptoPunks, and other Starry Night Ethereum NFTs set to be liquidated. Bankruptcy of Three Arrows Capital. This next piece of NFT-based news is very interesting. Telegraph, the world's cultural heritage is being preserved one NFT at a time. The Monuverse is taking some of the world's most precious monuments and preserving them forever as NFTs in the digital universe. As use cases of non-fungible token NFTs have evolved from pixelated punks and apes of real-world applications like real estate contracts and music royalties, another use case is surfacing as the Monuverse uses NFTs to preserve cultural heritages around the world. Through a combination of blockchain technology, 3D imaging, generative art, and local collaboration, the Monuverse is using NFTs to take important global monuments into digital reality, where they will be preserved infinitely. First NFT project of this caliber is from the Monuverse, highlights the Arco della Pace, or the Arc of Peace, in Milan, Italy. So let's see if we can play this. Oh, where'd it go? It's just disappeared. Anyways. Ready for groundbreaking experience? It all starts here. There's episode 1, Arc of Peace, a 7,777 generative series by another person here on Twitter. This is their Twitter handle. More than 5,000 people joined our allow list already. How about you? This is not financial advice. Obviously, if you're collecting something as a token gated access into the Monuverse, then maybe that is what this NFT is for, because it's token gated. But some people might, a lot of people view like NFTs as like buying for trading or valuation, but in that case, this is just something maybe to access, but I have to learn more about it, so I can't really say either which way what it is, this NFT collection. But the initial generative digital rendering of the monument will not be available for individual ownership under the precipice of intellectual property law and authorization of the Italian Ministry of Culture, Archaeology, Fine Arts, and Landscapes Milan Authority. However, a subsequent drop of 7,777 randomized NFTs gives individuals a piece of the virtual counterpart of the monument and access to related events. These NFTs are also open up a means by which owners can patronize cultural heritage. One moment. All right. Where were we? NFTs open. Yeah. So yeah, these NFTs can also open up a new means by which owners can patronize cultural heritage. Telegraph spoke with Andrea Salomon, a co-founder of Monuverse, to understand how NFTs can help further preserve this cultural heritage and boost virtual tourism efforts. So there's a related article here as well, which all of these articles I'm reading from will be in the recap on the YouTube side for you to do further research on your own accord and reading thorough. But NFTs are expected to be a major aid in ushering the next billion users into the crypto space. This will especially be the use case if they're connected with already known and valued elements of their cultural heritage, creating a sense of familiarity. Solomon said, when NFTs and monuments are created, it will help create a tangible bridge between realities and contribute to a virtual ecosystem. Being one of the virtual owners of a real historic monument should come with both feelings. Not only do you own a cool piece, you are actively helping safeguard heritage in an innovative and fun way. Virtual preservation of monuments means that they will be frozen in time as they are now. If global conflicts or natural erosion takes place in the real world, virtual reality will have an untouched version for future generations to enjoy. Owning a Monuverse NFT is not only an honor, but also a responsibility, said Salomon. An important aspect of this project is that part of the revenue from NFT drops provide perpetual funding to the local institutions to which these monuments belong. Funding will accelerate the maintenance and restoration of monuments around the world, a lot of which are really at risk. Someone said this is definitely something the project plans to change for the better. Aside from cultural heritage, NFTs can create new possibilities for the virtual world of tourism and Web3. While virtual reality and augmented reality have been important in creating digital experiences, Marek believes they cannot do it alone. Web3 will be critical in this field because it will take people's experience to a whole new level. I believe the key word here is ownership. According to the Monuverse co-founder, virtual tourism can take on a new level of a connection to a place where, as visitors who own a related NFT, can develop a real sense of ownership and belonging like never before. Already, metaverse elements at historic sites are proving to be innovative ways to connect the past to the future. That's how the world's cultural heritage is being preserved one NFT at a time. All right, so I have some technology news here next, and then some finance news before closing out the stream for the day. The U.S. puts Chinese drone giant DJI on the military ties blacklist. A Shenzhen-based firm is among 13 Chinese companies added to the list that clears ways for the sanctions. The United States Defense Department (DoD). This article has been adjusted with the response from DJI. Okay, the United States Department (DoD) had added more than a dozen Chinese companies, including the world's largest drone manufacturer, to a blacklist of firms with alleged ties to the Chinese military, clearing the way for restrictions on their business. Shenzhen, which is estimated to control more than half of the global market for commercial drones, is among the 13 firms added to the blacklist released by the Pentagon on Wednesday. The blacklist grants the U.S. president authority to impose sanctions against companies deemed to have connections to the Chinese military. The announcement comes after the U.S. Treasury Department last year banned U.S.-based persons from trading shares of DJI, even other Chinese companies, over their alleged involvement in the surveillance of ethnic minority Uyghurs in China's far western region of Xinjiang. Zhejiang? I don't know. BGI Genomics Co., a genetic testing company, CRRC Corp., which manufactures rolling stock in Zhejiang Dahua Technology. Hangzhou-based surveillance equipment maker were also included on the updated list. The blacklist includes more than 60 Chinese firms, including the tech giant Huawei, technology and semiconductor maker SMIC. The department is determined to highlight and counter the People's Republic of China's military civil fusion strategy, which supports the modernization goals of the People's Liberation Army by ensuring its access to advanced technologies and expertise are acquired and developed by PRC companies, universities, and research programs that appear to be civilian entities, the Pentagon said in a statement. Charles Roulette, an analyst at Pennsylvania-based surveillance research group IPVM, said the move against DGI was a warning to investors to steer clear of the company. DGI had already been added to the U.S. Treasury to the non-SDN Chinese military industrial complex companies list in December 2021, barring U.S. investments into the firm. So the DoD listings confirms the U.S. government firmly considers DGI to be a contributor to the People's Republic of China (PCR) military, Roulette told Al Jazeera. Note that DGI has received investment from a PRC state-owned fund, China's Changtong, which openly touts military-civil fusion as a core goal. DGI spokesman Adam Leisberg, said the firm stood alone as the only drone maker to discourage the military use of its products and oppose its inclusion on the blacklist. There's no reason why DGI has been added to the Defense Department's list of Chinese military companies. Leisberg told Al Jazeera, DGI does not fall under any categories set by law to be included on the list. DGI is not a military company in China, the United States, or anywhere else. DGI has never designed or manufactured military-grade equipment. It's never marketed or sold its products for military use in any country. Instead, we have always developed products to benefit society and save lives. We stand ready to formally challenge our inclusion on the list. Al Jazeera contacted Dahua BGI and CRRC for comment. The U.S. President Joe Biden has pushed to isolate Chinese companies with alleged military ties as part of a sweeping effort to counter Beijing in areas ranging from defense to technology and trade. China has described the U.S. sanctions against Chinese firms as typical political manipulation and warns scientific and technological advancements should not be used as tools to restrict the development of other countries. So that's a piece of news here from the U.S. puts Chinese drone giant DGI on the military blacklist. Next piece of news here is also in technology sector. It's from CNBC. Silicon Valley VC has been investing in climate tech for a decade, and here's what he's into now. So it's from writer Catherine Clifford for CNBC. Key points here is Zachary Bogue, co-founded the Silicon Valley venture capital firm DCVC in 2011, and since then he and his co-founder Matt Ocko have invested in scores of companies that have gone public or have been acquired. DCVC invests in climate to make money, not out of a social manifesto. Areas of climate tech investing that Bogue is especially excited about right now included advanced nuclear water conservation, methane reduction, and geothermal. Zachary Bogue, co-founded the Silicon Valley venture capital firm DCVC in 2011. Since then, he and co-founder Matt Ocko have invested in scores of companies that have gone public or have been acquired by companies like Google, Twitter, Amazon, and Microsoft. DCVC invests in algorithmic finance, cybersecurity, smart agriculture, space access, and intelligence, and climate resilience technology. While investing in climate technology serves as a social benefit, DCVC is not investing for ideological reasons. For the contrary, there is a bucket of investing that we will just call ethical investing, and that's where folks are investing in things they know they should be investing in, or not investing in things they know they shouldn't be investing in, and they are doing that for ethical and moral reasons, Bogue told CNBC in an interview late last month. In exchange for doing that, they are willing to accept a lower rate of return. We do not do that. Bogue added, my LPs are big institutions. So liquidity pools are big institutions, college endowments, big charitable trusts that run hospitals, referring to the venture capitalist firm's limited partners or investors. They give me money, and unless I give them back a return on that money, they aren't going to operate their hospitals. So we have to take the profit motive and the return motive very seriously at DCVC. There's a lot of these trillion-dollar problems out there in the climate space, and if you can solve them, you can create a huge positive impact for the world while building a large, successful capitalist company. The thesis for all DCVC's investing is backing entrepreneurs who are solving trillion-dollar problems with computational power. There's a lot of these trillion-dollar problems out there in the climate space, and if you can solve them, you can create a huge positive impact for the world while building a large, successful capitalist company, Bogue told CNBC. The goal is to build large, successful public companies. When looking at a climate tech investment, DCVC does the exact same kind of due diligence it would do on any other deal, Bogue told CNBC. There's no free pass because someone happens to be solving a hard problem in climate rather than a hard problem in robotics or with satellite or in biotech, Bogue told CNBC. They all need to meet sort of our internal high bar of in underwriting those deals. That's not to say that Bogue is indifferent to climate change. He grew up in Denver, where daily life is defined as proximity to nature. He studied environmental science and public policy at Harvard. The DCBC has been investing in climate tech since 2012, long before it became trendy. That first climate investment was in Tempo DB, which is a type of time series database, among other things, geothermal energy. We've been quietly investing in the climate for a decade and trying not to talk too much about it, Bogue told CNBC. Relatively recently, it became socially acceptable to talk about it. The amount of money going into climate tech has certainly been on the rise, according to a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers. In the year ended June 30, 2021, $87.5 billion in venture capital and private equity went into climate tech, up to 210% from the previous 12-month period. In the most recent year, more than $60 billion of that $87.5 billion came into the first 6 months of 2021. Deals are getting bigger in the space, too. In the first 6 months of 2021, the average climate tech deal was $96 million, up from $27 million in the same 6 months of 2020. Hot climate topics for DCVC: nuclear, water, methane, and geothermal. Bogue is interested in investing in nuclear energy, but because DCVC has total assets under management of about $3 billion, much less than it costs to construct a conventional large-scale nuclear power plant, the firm invests in capital-light nuclear companies. One example is Oklo, which is planning to build micronuclear reactors. If its plans are pan out, it will be able to fund its further growth with revenue that comes in from power purchase agreements, Bogue said. Advanced nuclear fusion is the quintessential deep tech venture capital problem, Bogue told CNBC. There is technical and regulatory risk, but if those problems are solved, there is just massive scale returns for those elements that are a perfect recipe for venture capital. Water conservation technology is one big focus. Water is rapidly coming to the fore as a climate problem and as a deep tech addressable problem. Bogue said, for example, DCVC led a recent investment in Twitter Co., a wastewater processing startup, which is working to scale up its membrane technology, which allows industrial companies and large farms to recycle their wastewater, allowing them to use less fresh water. Bogue is also interested in finding solutions to minimize methane emissions. Methane is vastly more potent than carbon dioxide in its impact on global warming, but it does not persist nearly as long as the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. If you can stop methane leaking in climate terms, it has an immediate and positive impact. So if we can stop all the human caused methane, it can buy us years to get our act together on climate problems that will take longer to perfect, Bogue told CNBC. Keros Aerospace, a company DCVC has invested in, images methane leaks from aerial satellites and provides data about leaks to oil and gas companies. This is a very low-hanging fruit and easily addressable problem with huge impact, Bogue said. DCVC has also invested in CH4 Global, a company which is working to grow the aquaculture ecosystem for Asparagopsis seaweed, a seaweed that grows natively in Australia and New Zealand. CH4 is taking the particular seaweed and making it into a supplement to put in the food of ruminants, including cows, goats, sheep, and deer, so that they release less methane with their belching. One area of climate tech investing Bogue mentioned is a geothermal, which is heat generated from the core of the earth. DCVC recently led a $138 million round of funding in Fervo, which counts the tech giant Google as a customer. Most of the same technology and engineering talent that is currently used by the oil and gas industry can potentially transfer those skills over to geothermal, said Bogue. And unlike renewables, which generate energy only when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing, geothermal is a baseload 24/7 power source. So this is an interesting article here in the tech sector. How Silicon Valley VC has been investing in climate tech over a decade. And here's what in here and now. Here's what in the current now. The time of writing in this article. So This next article is also from CNBC. Tech critics see hope for new antitrust laws after a win in the House. So big tech never loses a legislative fight, and they just did as package of new bills passes. So the key points here. This is from writer Lauren Feiner. Advocates for tech antitrust reform have seen reasons for hope and disappointment throughout the past few months. Last week's passage of the package of antitrust bills in the House could drive more ambitious proposals making their way through Congress, according to the Tech Oversight Project. The nonprofit tech critic laid out reasons for optimism in a memo to allies shared exclusively with CNBC. Policy advocates who have been pushing for new legislative reigning in big tech's power have seen their hopes lifted and shattered several times throughout the past few months. Last week marked one of the brighter notes for those supporting the push for new antitrust laws when the House passed a package of bills giving enforcers more resources to go after anti-competitive mergers and giving the state attorneys general more power over in which courts they can bring antitrust lawsuits. The legislation that passed 2042 to 184 is less ambitious in scope than some of the more sweeping proposals making their way through both chambers of Congress. It is cause for hope, according to a new memo from the Tech Oversight Project, a nonprofit that advocates for antitrust reform. Big tech never loses a legislative fight, and they just did. Executive Director Satya Howarth said in a memo to allies Thursday that was shared exclusively with CNBC. Recipients include Democratic offices on Capitol Hill, think tanks, and a coalition of advocacy organizations, according to the group. The Tech Oversight Project receives funding, as the Washington Post has reported, from the Omidyar Network, created by regulation advocate and eBay founder Pierre Omidyar. I'm not sure if that is correctly pronounced, but trying. And from the advocacy arm of the Economic Security Project, a nonprofit led by Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes, who has called for his former company's breakup. Howarth, a Democratic political campaign veteran, makes the case that the decisive passage of the legislation last week shows there is still a chance for two other key bills to pass in the lame duck session later this year. Those bills are the American Innovation and Choice Online Act, AICO, and the Open App Markets Act, OAMA, which would essentially bar large platforms like Amazon, Apple, and Google from favoring their own products over rivals that rely on their marketplaces. The latter bill is focused squarely on mobile app stores. Earlier this summer, antitrust reform advocates looked to the lame duck only as a Hail Mary, since many felt there was still a chance to schedule a vote before the August recession, an informal marker of when midterm electioneering gets into full swing, making it harder to pass new laws. But as the legislative days ticked away, it became clear advocates would need to refocus their insights on the weeks following the midterms, according to Howarth. Last week's vote provided some reasoning for optimism. She notes House Democrats who voted against the package were not among those in the top 20% most competitive districts in the country, based on data from the Cook Political Report. That runs counter to speculation that congressional leaders may be hesitant to schedule a vote on AICO and OAMA to spare Democrats a competitive race from having to vote on an issue that could be used against them. Howarth goes as far as to say, if this voting pattern holds, AICO and OAMA will breeze past both chambers with ease. She contends Representative Ken Buck Arcolo, the key Republican champion of tech antitrust reform in the House, delivered on his promise of a tidal wave of Republican votes, despite opposition from other prominent party members like House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, R. Califf, and Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Jim Jordan, R. Ohio. Despite attempts in big tech to discredit Grassley and Buck's efforts, they proved their hypothesis right. If brought to the full floor, a significant portion of Republicans would cross over to join Democrats in holding big tech accountable, Howarth said, referring to Senate Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Chuck Grassley, R. Iowa. Oh, sorry. I'm reading this like a name, but it's Representative Ohio, Representative Iowa, so on and so forth. Those who champion the bills in that chamber, the states within the United States, type deal. political representatives of the states. Howarth wrote that the contradictory reasons given by Jordan and Representative Zoe Lofgren, the Democrat of California, to oppose antitrust reform should prove that their argument is a red herring meant to muddy the waters. While Jordan contended the bills on the table would help platforms censor information, Lofgren argued it would do the opposite, making it harder for them to moderate content. Democrats have been pretty open about the fact that they want these bills because they believe it will help them censor conservatives. Jordan spokesperson Russell Dye said in a statement. A spokesperson for Lofgren did not immediately provide comment. Adam Kovacevic, CEO of the tech-funded left-of-center advocacy group Chamber of Congress, similarly pushed back on Howard's critique. Our polling this week makes for obvious that voters' top priority on tech policy is content moderation, an issue which AICOA and the Open Apps Market Act make worse, he said in a statement. The bill's Democratic sponsors have said they would not weaken content moderation. More than a dozen Democrats have raised serious concerns that these bills would stop platforms from taking down harmful content, and that issue still hasn't been resolved. Finally, the memo contends that lame duck legislation is becoming more common, citing a Pew Tuck Research Center article from last year that found a significant percentage of legislation passed in recent years has been in the lame duck period. In the 116th Congress spanning from 2019 to 2020, for example, nearly 44% of bills passed did so in the lame duck. Big tech and their allies will continue to push the narrative that bipartisan antitrust reform is dead, Howarth notes in writing. Not so fast. While anti-big tech advocates remain clear-eyed about the task at hand, the outcome is not set in stone. You can read the full letter from the Tech Oversight Project below in this article link I'll have on the recap on the YouTube side. All right, so we have a few pieces of news here going into shifting over into the finance news, and we're going to close out the stream for the day. This is from Yahoo Finance. The news: Biden student loan plan faces lawsuits and how experts say borrowers should respond. So this is from Ben Werschel. Hopefully I'm not butchering that name. Biden student loan plan faces lawsuits. It's how experts say borrowers should respond. Student loan borrowers could soon begin applying to have up to $20,000 in loan forgiveness despite uncertainty over the future of the Biden administration's controversial debt relief plan. At least 4 lawsuits opposing the plan have emerged in recent weeks. Though President Biden has appeared willing to put up a fight, saying and recently bring it on. While experts disagree in the merits of these cases, they do agree on one thing: borrowers who apply for forgiveness first could have an advantage. You want to apply as quickly as you can. On the first day, it comes out even. Financial aid expert Mark Kantrowitz wrote Yahoo Finance. Told Yahoo Finance. The Biden administration drew the ire of many Republicans and even some of his own allies when he announced his debt forgiveness plan in August. The plan would forgive $10,000 of debt for people making less than $125,000 and an additional $10,000 for those who receive Pell Grants. Some critics argue that the plan doesn't address the root problems that make college so expensive, while others claim the plan overstepped the executive branch's constitutional authority. While some of these arguments might win in court, if borrowers can get their application through before a court hands down its decision, experts say it's likely that the forgiveness will stick. If someone gets cancellation, I think it would be an extraordinary remedy to undo that. Versus you of the Student Borrower Protection Center told Yahoo Finance. So they got some outstanding U.S. loan debt at $1.75 trillion through Q2 2022. This is a source U.S. Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve's system. The shaded areas indicate U.S. recession. From this chart line. This is a contingent on the application process getting underway. Lawyers for the program's opponents are searching for a judge who would freeze the program in place while the case plays out. So far, No judge has issued a temporary restraining order that would halt the forgiveness program. If it reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, the Biden administration is going to lose. The Biden administration is trying to dismiss the lawsuits in what is essentially a game of legal whack-a-mole, according to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budgets, Mark Goldwyn. And if the litigation proceeds, there's a good chance courts are going to look at this and say the president overstepped his authority. Spending is really the authority of the Congress, Goldwyn said. Kontrowitz predicted if he reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, the Biden administration is going to lose. But before then, opponents have to show they have standing, meaning the forgiveness plan would hurt them. All three of the active suits, one out of Indiana, another from Arizona, and fourth from 6 state attorneys general, wrestle with the standing problem and have used a variety of legal arguments to make their case. The Arizona Attorney General's lawsuit, for example, says he is hurt by forgiveness because his office relies on student loan repayment assistance programs to recruit staff. A fourth case brought in Wisconsin was recently tossed over the standing issue. If the states can't establish standing, the merits of these respective cases don't matter. As such, the Biden administration has been adapting the program in real time to try to get the lawsuits tossed right away. In one recent example, the Coalition of Attorneys General argued that they have standing because allowing borrowers to consolidate loans would hurt state loan agencies. The Department of Education quickly responded with new restrictions on consolidations, apparently designed to undercut the argument. The Biden administration appears to optimistic that the strategies still work. The House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre recently said debtors could access the short online form later this month. We want to make the process simple, clear, and we want to make sure that the user experience is a positive one. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona recently told Yahoo Finance, saying his agency is working on a website to make applying as easy as possible. If all goes as planned from the administration's perspective, Cardona's agency will approve applications on a rolling basis and then send the information to loan servicers for execution within a matter of weeks. So a wide range of possible outcomes. The United States has this second chart over here. In addition to this current lawsuits, more could be coming once the program is formally announced. Kontrowitz says the legal challengers might have a case if they can resolve the question of standing. He notes that this is a new spending program estimated by the Congressional Budget Office to cost $400 billion, and that it's not clear the law gives the executive branch to forgive student loan debt. Yu disagrees, telling Yahoo Finance that he believes borrowers will ultimately have their debt canceled. This administration did its homework, and there's solid legal ground for the policy and for the announcement. He said, if the cases do end up proceeding, the Supreme Court could hear arguments soon, so borrowers might have a small window to get their forgiveness approved and processed before then. So there's a piece of news here, an importance among the among Biden's student loan plans faces lawsuits. How experts say borrowers should respond, which basically is get your application in there and in that window. So two pieces of news here in the finance sector. We're closing out the stream for the day. We got Jeremy Siegel, the biggest threat today in recession. Jeremy Siegel says the biggest threat today is recession and not inflation. So this is from Wharton's Jeremy Siegel, right? From writer Abigail Ng. Nidge. Key points. The U.S. Federal Reserve has been raising rates too quickly, and recession risk will be extremely high if it continues to do so, said Jeremy Siegel, professor emeritus of finance at the Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania. They should have started tightening much, much, much earlier, he told CNBC's Street Signs Asia on Friday, but now I fear that they are slamming on the brakes way too hard. Not everyone agrees. Thomas Hoenig, former president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas, said rates need to go up much higher. So U.S. Treasury, there's a video on part of the U.S. Treasury yields, I guess, and some other aspects. The U.S. Federal Reserve has been raising rates too quickly, and recession risks will be extremely high if it continues to do so, said Jeremy Siegel, professor emeritus of finance at the Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania. They should have started tightening much earlier, he told CNBC Street Signs Asia on Friday. But now fear they're slamming the brakes way too hard. Said that he was one of the first to warn of the Fed's inflationary policies in 2020 in 2021. But the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. If they stay as tight as they say they will, continuing to hike rates even through the rates through even the early part of next year, the risks of recession are extremely high, he said. Most of the inflation is behind us, and then the biggest threat is recession, not inflation today. Official data, which typically lags by a month, may not immediately show the changes happening in the real economy, he said. Most of the inflation is behind us, and then the biggest threat is recession, not inflation today. Siegel said he thinks interest rates are high enough that they could bring inflation down to 2%, and a terminal rate or endpoint should be between 3.75% and 4%. In September, the Fed raised benchmark interest rates by another 3/4 of a percentage point to a range of 3% to 3.25%, the highest it has been since early 2008. The central bank also signaled that the terminal rate could be as high as 4.6% in 2023. I think that is way too high. That is way too high. Basically, given the policy lags that really would force a contraction, he said. According to the CME Group FedWatch tracker of Fed funds future bets, the probability that the target range of rates will reach 4.5% to 4.75% in February next year is at a 58.3%. If it were up to him, Siegel said he would hike rates by a half point in November, then wait and see. If commodity prices start to rise and money supply increases, the Fed would have to do more. But my feeling is that when I look at sensitive commodity prices, asset prices, housing prices, even rental prices, I see declines, not increases, he said. But not everyone agrees. Thomas Hoenig, former president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, said rates need to be higher for longer. My own view is you've got to get the rate up. If inflation is 8%, you need to get the rate up much higher. He told CNBC's Street Signs Asia. They need to stay there and not back off that too soon to where they reignite inflation, say in the second quarter of 2023 or the third quarter, he added. All right, so that's this article there. Wharton Jeremy's Siegel says today's biggest threat isn't inflation, it's recession. This last piece of news here is from Yahoo Finance. Stock market news and live updates for October 7th here. I'm going to close out this stream for the day. It's from Alexandra Semenova. Stock market news and live updates. Stocks tank, Treasury yields spike as jobs report dashes hopes of the Fed pivot. And make sure that this video is not going to play out. Pause the video. U.S. stocks traded on Friday at their worst day since the throes of September's sell-off after the government's monthly employment report showed labor conditions remained tight last month despite a slowdown in hiring. Any hopes the Federal Reserve will pivot on its aggressive rate hiking path. The U.S. economy added 263,000 jobs last month as the unemployment rate fell to 3.5%. Economists expected a payroll gain of $255,000 for unemployment to hold at 3.7% per consensus estimates compiled by Bloomberg. All right, good Lord. The S&P 500 GSPC plunged 2.8%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average DJI shed 630 points, or 2.1%. The Nasdaq Composite IXIC led the way down at a decline of 3.8%. While in the bond market, Treasury yields spiked, benchmark 10-year note back near 3.9%, and the rate-sensitive 2-year yield topping 4.3%. Friday's sell-off paired much of the week's gains after a fleeting 2-day rally that kicked off the month, lifted all three major averages more than 5% off their 2022 lows. Still, the U.S. stock managed to end the week on a positive note, snapping a 3-week losing streak. The S&P 500 was up 1.5%, the Dow 2%, and Nasdaq 0.7% since Monday. Okay, so that's since Monday. I mean, still down right on Friday's closing, but still, again, up 1.5% from the start of the week. and 2% on the Dow, and 0.7% on the NASDAQ since Monday. The market's negative reaction may be a sign that investors are processing the likelihood that there will be no change in the Fed's aggressive playbook in the near term. Mike Loengart, head of model portfolio construction at Morgan Stanley's Global Investment Office, said in a note, keep in mind the next Fed decision isn't until early November, so much more data will be needed to be digested, not the least of which in next week's inflation gauge. Right? Investors were betting that signs of a cooling labor market would force Federal Reserve policymakers to change course on their aggressive rate hiking path, particularly after a series of weaker economic releases shows a sharp contraction in manufacturing activity and fewer job openings. But many Wall Street strategies have argued that hopes of an imminent pivot is premature, a sentiment that this jobs report appears to reinforce. In recent research notes, JP Morgan analysts said that equity bulls would need a monthly payroll print as low as 100,000 to see the market alter its Fed expectations, while analysts at Bank of America said a pivot won't occur until payroll sting. The Fed's job is still far from over, expects hikes to continue until negative payrolls are almost in hand. A team of BOFA led by rates research strategist Megan Sweeber noted, moreover, Federal Reserve officials themselves have delivered clear messaging in recent weeks that there are so far no plans to retreat from aggressive policy intervention. We have further to go, Chicago Federal Reserve Bank President Charles Evans said Thursday, indicating the benchmark rate will likely be at 4.5% to 4.75% by the spring of 2023. Inflation is high right now, and we need a more restrictive setting of monetary policy. U.S. crude oil futures continued this week's climb on the heels of the heftiest OPEC production cut since 2020. DataTrek research noted that West Texas intermediate WTI crude at more than $85 per barrel will prolong positive energy inflation trends until at least the start of 2023. The firm also noted that the oil prices that are being unappreciated are an unappreciated fulcrum issue for the Federal Reserve and the market's expectations of near-term economic growth. WTI futures CL equals F settled a 92.65 per barrel on Friday, so $92.65 per barrel on Friday, marking a 17% jump since Monday, the largest one-week increase since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began earlier this year. Elsewhere in the markets, chip makers were under pressure Friday after Advanced Micro Devices AMD lowered its third quarter revenue guidance and warned of significant inventory corrections across the PC supply chain. Shares tanked nearly 14% to cap Friday's sessions. Also weighing on the sector was Samsung reporting its first profit decline since 2019, another sign of a troubled chip market. Levi Strauss was also a mover Friday after the retailer cut its guidance, citing headwinds for a stranger dollar with slowing consumer demand and persistent supply chain snaffles. The stock closed down roughly 12%. Meanwhile, shares of DraftKings D-King ended up 3% after Bloomberg News reported Thursday that ESPN is nearing a large new partnership deal with the sports betting company, citing sources familiar with their agreement. That's a little headwind outside of what the main core points are. The stock market news, live updates, stocks tank, treasury yields spike as jobs report dashes hopes of the Fed pivot. That's all I have for the news today. And if you're on the YouTube side, check out the recap on this. 3 comments in there on what you take on all these news articles are, and engage with each other, engage with the comments together respectively in a positive way. And I'll also answer comments and questions, and also throw your news that you think is interesting to have here, and whether it be blockchain, crypto, NFT, metaverse, finance, technology, throw it in there and we'll cover it here on Blockchain Tech and Finance News. Again, this is every day on the weekdays at 7:30 a.m. EDT time here on Blockchain Tech and Finance News, on Saturdays 12 p.m. EDT time as a final balancing of time for reading this news sector. All right, I think we'll probably keep these Saturday sessions maybe a little bit slower range. I know there's a lot of cover, but maybe we'll keep it to light news like that. Obviously, Also, to close out, if you're into NFT art, you can check out my KINSAR on OpenSea Foundation. Follow me on TikTok, KinToshi follow me on Instagram, KinToshi and follow on Twitch, KinToshi for extra content and live stream gaming content. Cheers, ciao. Peace be with you. Have a great and safe day wherever in the world you are. Again, once more, subscribe, turn on bell notification. Oh, I'm in the corner still. Subscribe, turn on bell notifications here to Blockchain Tech and Finance News. I'll throw that caption on once more. I think it was actually wrong. Whatever. Have a great and safe day. See you back to not tomorrow, but on Monday.